Hail, hail, the Celts are here. And what the hell do we care now? I was going into that game thinking St Mirren are always like tough opponents and stuff like that. And the game's normally quite cutthroat. There's not much in it. The mistakes are punished. And, the substitutes, the bench normally do play some sort of role in the match. It must be said. But this game, it did kind of follow that playbook, as it were. But it I thought it was going to be like 2-0, 3-1. It was going to be something a wee bit closer, but 5-2. What a game in so many different ways. We'll be getting stuck into that live and loud here on the channel today. So fist bump to everyone on arrival. There's a bunch of us here live and loud already. And there's a lot of good talking points coming out of this one. I'm really excited. I'm really looking forward to it. As I mentioned in the title of the show today, this is one of Brendan Rodgers' favourite matches. He said to Celtic TV or the Celtic YouTube channel in his post-match interview with them. And I thought, let's just take a look at that amongst other things, because if this is one of Brendan's favourites, there's a few dynamics in here that we'll kind of thrash out and we'll get stuck into a little bit more. If you're watching this after we've been live, if you do enjoy the video, please do like and subscribe for more content like this, of course. And for all you guys that are live and loud, of course, get into the chat. Let me know thoughts, feelings, hot takeaways. Did you predict any of that madness? I highly doubt it, but maybe one of you crazy boys or girls managed to pull it off, because some of the predictions we do get here are unique. Let's just put it like that. So that's not impossible, to say the least. But 5-2 overall. And, the tail of the tape on this one, there's 5 goals. How many different scorers did we end up with in total? We've obviously got Schlupp for the opener, Engels from the spot, Yang at the double, and Maeda. So we've got 4 different scorers across 5 goals. And, the bench made a real difference to this game, as well, where, the bench come on at 2-2, because that Killian Phillips gets his goal so quickly after the restart. I actually kind of, in my memory before coming back tonight, like, I hadn't realised it was, it wasn't something that jumped to mind, but certainly the bench making a difference, because when it's 2 each here, honestly, like, we'll just start off with this because the chat is firing away on it already, right? It is Yang Gang or Yang Bang. I'm not too sure what we're going with, right? But I said it last week. You can jump back. It's not that far to find on the channel. You can look at any game this guy has played. We've been quite consistent with just give the guy a bit of space, and what he's missing, time will give him. And I'm looking forward to breaking it down in this game, because Brendan gives him a lot of credit. Brendan is apex. We'll hear from the man himself, of course, on Yang and what is the secret to his success, which is brilliant. But last week, his goals, forget the scoreline when he came on. The first goal is proper grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck, taking the ball from out wide, linking up with a few players centrally, killing the defence, moving into space at pace, getting into the box one-on-one with the keeper and finishing. It's very repeatable. That's the exact sort of thing he should be able to pull off at this point, and he did. And there was another thing that was in that similar kind of vein in the Aberdeen match, but it's now fallen off the back of my brain because it's all St Mirren that is at the front of my mind. And Yang comes on this time. The scores are irrelevant. It's 2-2 this time, but, and what does he do? He's in the right place at the right time. He just does the right thing at the right moment. He knows the team so well. He knows the chemistry. He knows the balance of everything, the positioning, the roles, the responsibilities, everything. And in a pressure situation, as much pressure as the guy's been under, you would say, like, in the sense of, like, he's also played against Bayern Munich and come off the bench in Aston Villa and a few other things like that, don't get me wrong, but, like, where it's 2 each, Rangers have just lost. We don't want any egg on our face having lost to Hibs the weekend before. So, it's quite an important game at that point. I wouldn't say it's definitely not like defining anything, don't get me wrong. But we started this off because Brendan said it's one of his favourites, where there's like a really good performance, you would say, from like St Mirren were good, and St Mirren are always one of the best teams that we play against, especially away from home. Like, there's no surprises that this team, especially under this manager, the last 2, I think the manager before them, him as well, was quite handy against us. But certainly, Stephen Robinson, is it? He's like very, very, he's doing a great job there. I think, St Mirren are always one of the toughest teams we play. No two ways about it. And, but we'll maybe talk about one or two of their characters, because over the last couple of matches, by the way, we're also saying Luke McCowan this transfer window, but I'm now starting to get a little hit list of guys that we could Luke McCowan that's not called Lennon Miller, because that's kind of, it's just boring. That's just the top of the list, isn't it? So we'll be working on that. That'll come out in the next couple of days. Maybe we'll talk about one of them in this one, but the chat is firing away, guys. And, like Yang, and I'm looking forward to breaking it down a lot more, but the wee man just did exactly what was required, coming on at 2 each. And, how else does Brendan like this game? We get a goal in the 93rd minute as well. And we get an assist, of course, from Schlupp, who goes on to complete a great match, a great performance ultimately from him. And last week, or was it even the Aberdeen match? Was it even last week? I was quite critical on Schlupp because I didn't actually get any left back action out of him. I felt in the Aberdeen match, he never really crossed the ball much. He did end up in the box positionally a few times, but never really done anything. This game was totally different, of course, with the goal. The goal really was a big surprise, wasn't it? I'm kind of jumping into stuff, right? What I want to do is I want to hear from Brendan, first of all, right? Because I did have his comments loaded up and ready to go because I listened to it just before firing up the show. So I just thought, I've heard him talk to Sky. Was it Sky that had the official coverage? So I wonder what he said to Celtic TV. I've not listened to Celtic Fan TV right enough, but where is Brendan? There is it. Oh, sorry, wrong tab. Sorry, guys. But my tab's all messed up and whatever. But yeah, it's only 2 minutes, so it's very, very short. We love to cover the press conferences here, and there's not too much in it. And one of the highlights, of course, is the secret with Yang. So if you haven't caught it,
Brendan,
probably have.
5-2 victory, another 3 points. Just give me your take on the game overall.
Yeah, well, one of my favourite results of the season. I think that to come here, third game in the week, tough place to come against a team that have had some fantastic results against the so-called big clubs. Difficult surface, and to score 5 goals and get the result was so good.
You made three subs just after the hour mark. One of those changes was Yang, who comes on, gets a double and an assist. How impressed are you by him in the sort of the way that he seems to be growing as a player?
Yeah, it's so pleased for him. He works so hard. He's such a good guy. Whether he starts, whether he comes off the bench, he can make an impact. So to get his 2 goals, his third goal would have been a great goal, but it was disallowed. And then his pass.
And by the way, what a hat-trick that would have been, Would it have been a perfect hat-trick, by the way? He did get a header. Would that have been a perfect hat-trick, guys? Oh, imagine. Like Yang, again, we'll come to it, but what more can you ask? What more can you want from the guy?
His pass for Dysen's goal was, to see it and to execute it was so good. So yeah, very, very pleased for him. His girlfriend's here at the moment, so that is making him really happy, and he's in a great mood for.
Look at his face. He knows what he's saying. He knows. This buckled me the first time I watched it. I'm so glad it's still funny. Second time watching it.
For a little while now, and it coincides with his performance level and the goals he's scoring and creating. So enough said.
Whatever it takes. Right?
Absolutely.
We've extended the lead at the top of the table. Now it's 16 points, a huge lead. But how important is it that the boys stay grounded? I know you were speaking earlier in the week about the fact that we've still got a long way to go and we've still got work to do this season.
Yeah, there's lots of work. There's 9 games to go, plus the we want to win the Scottish Cup. So yeah, it's just really a focus on a game at a time. I think now, thankfully, what we can do, we can get some freshness back into the players, because that's just a little bit that's missing from our defending. So many games, so much energy put in, and that just a fraction bit of concentration and speed in our pressing. We're just missing, but we'll do that over the course of the coming weeks. With 1 game a week, we can recover, train specifically, and then go into the games in a really good place.
Yeah, told you it was short, nice and easy. And the second half of that as well, it's kind of why I wanted to start off with that, as an overview. What is, he obviously tells us a little bit, some of the stuff we spoke on, some of the stuff we didn't, about it's his favourite game, because as a manager, as a guy that's steering the ship, that is a comment, that is something of note, because he's forever mapping out the game, mapping out the squad, how we're, what's the route to go, who's going to be effective, different times in the match, we're going to do different things. And, even the quality of the opponent, again, factors into that as well. St Mirren away, Is it the hardest away game? Is that what we're going to call it? It's definitely harder than Pittodrie, you know. I don't think that's much of a thing. And fair enough, Easter Road last week is, you know, it's Hibs, isn't it? So Brendan Rodgers seems to have a voodoo with them. But is St Mirren away? I think it could be, by the way. I think there's a shout for it. Let me know what you think. The chat may even have some stats to back it or to kill it. So always interested to catch that. I think we'll pop on the board, right, because it kind of brings us into the opening segment of the game. Now, I think the first thing I want to say, right, because I'd said I wasn't going to mention his name in the preview, and I did my best to avoid it. He does come into this game, and we will need to talk about him as well, of course, right? But I just want to say this at this point, right? Trusty made an incredible recovery run in the first half. It was a real shame that he had to go off with that head injury. And, you know, I don't know what the situation is, if it's like a 10-day thing, a concussion thing or whatever. So maybe need to watch out for reports and whatever that come from it. And I've been on Trusty's back the last week or two because, like, defensively, like, you know, bottom line defensively, like, he's just been somewhat, you know, not quite there, not quite at his peak, right? And what Brendan's talking about in the second half of that press conference, like, he must have mentioned it, I think, pre-match somewhere. He said something like 23 games was the amount of games we'd played in that period we'd highlighted in the preview since, like, the end of November, which is half a season. You know, we've played half a season like the now, you know, and that's the kind of, this is the final, you know, bookmark end of that, because now we've got the full week off. Rangers are playing Thursday night, so there's maybe a giggle fest, the laugh factory might be back open. Let's see how they do against Jose Mourinho. And by the way, that Fenerbahce team, they've got old gold. That team, you know, they have talent. It could be. I don't want to say too much, right? Because whenever I do this with Rangers in Europe, they fucking win. You know, I can't ever get excited to. It's the way it's always went. So I always stop myself. But anyway, Trusty made a great recovery run in this game, and I thought, you know, that is 100% something that he brings to the table. And we've not really seen him hit that top pace like that. Must have been Olasanya he was chasing. We've not really seen him hit that level of pace really in many matches, if any. And that is clearly something that the manager and everyone else in the team will see in training and whatever, is like sprint speed and whatever. He doesn't really do anything. Schmeichel does get all the credit for saving the shot, and rightfully so. But Trusty plays a mammoth role in that by keeping on this guy's tail the whole way. He's like not grabbing him or anything, but that guy firmly knows, like, if he hesitates for half a second, chance is gone. You know, Trusty is on him, and that's just going to be the end of it. And it got me thinking, kind of coming into this, right? Because it's like, it's the only kind of contentious thing I've kind of got with normally this the way the squad's been panning out over the last week or two, right? But sincerely, like, I do think Scales and Trusty are so even in so many ways. Trusty clearly has him for pace on what we've seen demonstrated in this game. And, you know, like, Trusty has played in the biggest, most important matches this season. He's mixed it with the good and the great of European football in his short Celtic career already. So, he's pass marks all round, you know. I think they're so even, Scales and Trusty, that if you don't pick one of them, it's kind of boring, essentially. You know, I think you just need to kind of pick one and go with it, because they are like, they're so even. You know, they're both quality. Scales is definitely not get the pace, but I do think Scales obviously beats him in terms of just like fundamental, clear your lines, win your headers, don't let your man beat you defending. Like, I won't kind of move away from that, to be honest with you. So he comes in for Trusty later on in the match, and that's kind of a main part of kind of how the way the shape goes and everything else as well, because they're both different. You know, again, Scales doesn't get the pace, and these guys are physical. You know, so it's not as if he's coming in here to go against the tide, go against the grain or whatever. But I thought Trusty could have been on for a great match, you know. And I did say in the Aberdeen game, I think it was, it must have been the Aberdeen game, I thought it was Vickers' best domestic match of the season. And in this game, like, it was probably Schlupp. If you were going to pick anyone out from defence, it was certainly his best game in the hoops to date. A goal and an assist from left back. And, you know, he does invert. He does come into midfield and do a little bit extra, like we've seen with Celtic left backs now, or Greg Taylor, over the last, like, 4 years or whatever. But his versatility of also knowing the job in here, it would make sense that it would work. But it was more like out on the left where everything worked out for him, you know, where the cross for Yang's goal at the very end, of course, is like from right out here, and he just knows, I'm going to drop it to the back post. Yang's at the back post for it, of course, as well. And his goal, he's getting into this space here, typical kind of left back. He's one of the wider players on the pitch, before he just sees an opening and just takes the shot and just hits the mark, you know, just that elite level precision. So clearly, I think they're probably the standout defender on that basis. And, you know, at the back, like, he did have a moment or two where I think he maybe lost his grip and kind of went down once or twice. But again, physically, like, nobody was better. Nobody bettered him in that way. No, that maybe there is something I'm missing. And he's already put. Well, I think like you can't be calling him a dud, right? I think we've been over this 1,000. He's not a dud, right? I think in this game Taylor would have been. It has every right to have just been as effective in this game, but I think Schlupp was very, very good, very effective, and there was never really any doubt. There was never really any shakiness, and I think Trusty gives you that a little bit more than Scales does. Like when Scales is in, you've just always. I think Celtic fans have just got this inert, like can be para about Scales, and they don't with Trusty. And I think especially for the fans in attendance, home or away, well, it doesn't really matter. That has an influence. So it is what it is. You can't really ignore it. And I think Taylor, in some situations when he is like up against like an Olasanya type guy or a Mandarin, like can be absolutely bullied. And Schlupp, they're not even going to think about doing that to him, are they? So it's he's definitely. It looks like now for the rest of the season, we're only going to get maybe a Greg Taylor farewell or the odd cameo or something like that. But we're only playing weekend to weekend, and like Schlupp has the jersey, and it's hard to imagine him losing it. I'll do my best to bring the chat involved in this, guys. I've kind of just went into like match mode with this because, it's the day after, and let's just get stuck into it, kind of thing, And to be honest with you, I was thinking about this coming into the stream today as well. That I don't really, I've actually got no opinion. I've totally forgotten what Adam Ida did in this match. For better or for worse, whether that's my fault or not, I don't know. But I have completely forgotten about what he did in this match. So I don't really know how to think about that. I do think as I look at this side of the pitch, but Gogic was his self. I think Ida had a few battles with this guy and did all right, didn't he? Ida was up for it, I think. Yeah, I don't really remember anything too standout-ish about it. As we look at the midfield, of course, there's a lot of talking points in midfield, I think, from all three of them in this match in a few different ways. And I'll maybe take a wee pause for the cause and see what the chat are giving it. What do you think of Kuhn, the fastest man in our squad? Is he still trying? And have you watched his lack of celebrating when others score? So I think I've not really noticed the celebration thing, so I've not really got a comment or a thought on that. But I do think like Kuhn and like I've said this briefly before, but I'll kind of bring this up now. Like Jota's second season, when Jota left, it wasn't doing that great. Like I remember doing streams on this channel saying like Jota is not like see what we just said about Yang earlier on. We went through a period on this channel where we were saying Jota has not won us a game. Jota has not grabbed a game by the scruff of the neck for us in a long time. And that's why it was really weird that the move did come in as well, because it wasn't as if he was absolutely rinsing it in all directions. If anything, also we had a horrible European campaign where his highlight was scoring in a mad loss at the Bernabeu, which fair play to him. It's a nice free kick and whatever. But, so it's not unusual, is my point, for player, when you're operating at that high level, when their best is like an 8 or a 9 out of 10, there's a reason still that they've not completely mastered their powers and they can just do this week in, week out, like someone who plays at a slightly higher level, and that's just kind of the reality of it, would probably, and who knows, for definite, it's kind of part of the thing with football as well. You never know. With some players, transfers sometimes look amazing and they turn out rubbish, and vice versa, in all levels, in all different ways. So my point basically is like I'm not too worried about Kuhn's like ups and downs, the inconsistencies, because like Brendan's, it's the main thing. The last like 3 matches, especially, I think since Bayern Munich's second leg, to be honest with you, like the matches you can tell how much they've been through, and the fact that we're still beating St Mirren 5-2, at this current ebb of the team, like it's just I'm not too worried about all that stuff in terms of the celebrating stuff. Like, don't know. You think so, Brown Warrior? I'm not above believing that they're a bit precious with stuff like that. I'm definitely not above that at all. But yeah, I don't know. I think unless like I don't know, I would need to look at it a bit more because I've not really noticed it. I can imagine them just like turning and going back. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure. What striker are we getting in for next season? Ooh, Corey, that is a great question, by the way. And like it has to be someone who is like Dyson when he comes up front, because Brendan's on the record. When I asked him last time I spoke to him about Kyogo playing on the wing, and he says, no, Kyogo is the striker I want, like that type of person. Didn't hesitate to put Dyson in, of course, after trying to kid onto the board that he didn't have that versatility option, because we certainly need another forward of some description. And with Dyson being so hot on the left wing, like, why mess with that unnecessarily kind of thing? But the next striker we get has to be in that mold, has to be in that mega press, on the front foot, versatile, good team player. And, I'm probably going to put their age. I think Brendan is always after young players, but I don't think Brendan is the type where he's going to look to bring in a under 21 player, basically. Someone, I think they're going to be like 22, 23 at a youngest. I think ideally Brendan's probably looking at someone who's 24, 25. And I think for other positions, you maybe want someone who's like 27. But I think in these forward areas, you definitely want players that are in their ascendancy, because if you can get a player that, if you think about it in that kind of money ball or that analytical fashion, if you imagine their peak is like 27, 28, you kind of want to be selling them when they're 25, 26. So, like, when you pick them up, look at Arne Engels and the age we've picked him up at, for example. And with forwards, they kind of, especially attacking, the sort of players we are trying to ID, they get snapped up so quickly. So some of them maybe have to be a little bit, not necessarily damaged goods, but maybe ones that aren't quite as obviously going to like break through. Like we found Engels at Augsburg, he's hit the ground running, everyone's really happy with him. And I mentioned it on a stream recently that the fact that the club are finding guys like Engels and Kuhn, who came from two leagues that I really pay attention to, and I had really no scope on any of them. I'm always like, okay, well, the club certainly knows stuff I don't know, so I always kind of stop short to a point, because both of them have been hits for me, and when they've both come in, like, they certainly pass any sort of test you can run them across, and the team we've seen them in the hoops have been absolutely fantastic. But I don't think the next forward is going to look like Adamida or Giacomakis or I don't think it's going to be anyone like that. Johnny Kenny is not in the frame. I think Johnny Kenny's future is going to be like on loan at Ross County or something like that, and getting him into this division and getting him firing. And there's certainly a path for Johnny Kenny to get into the Celtic team. I don't think there's any question about that, but he obviously has to reach the required level. And I think that's the way Brendan and the club will see his next move. I don't think Johnny Kenny's probably not in the position like Vata and Cummings and all these other players are in, where they're like super young, qualify as homegrown for the English teams, and getting them on a free contract and compensation is a good economic move for them, for homegrown players and stuff like that. And so we probably hold a lot more cards with Johnny Kenny, and I think we'll be able to give him the pathway to the first team if he's good enough that you would want the club to give players. Sort of thing. We do like to keep our tabs as well on the other players who we still own, in air quotes, that are out on loan elsewhere. And Marco Tellio, by the way, scored 2 wee fun goals. It's the A-League. He's obviously not looked the part or whatever, but like maybe we'll get a few quids for him. Scored 2 nice wee goals where he's running in at speed from mad tap-ins, just like sprinting and smashing it. I don't think he's going to come back into the fold, but we still do own him. Don't be surprised if he shows up for a pre-season or something. But otherwise, I think like these 3 that are on screen plus Jota is like the 4, and I think Brendan's going to try and get his number 5. And then you're looking at Yang and Forrest to share spot number 6. I think that's what Brendan wants. I think that's a great dynamic. And if everyone's up for that, then who's complaining? Really? Like, I don't think I think it's quality. Like, what more do you want, really, at that stage? It does block a bit of the pathway for young players in those positions. And that's something Brendan mentioned in a press conference, and that's something we're all kind of aware of and kind of discussing forever, is bringing players through from the academy and having that level of depth. If we do add in one more forward, which we are, does stifle that. But really, if we're building a Champions League squad, then that's the level. So that's the level the young players need to come up to. And, anyway, that's maybe another conversation for another day. But in terms of who we're getting, that list will take a little bit of time to put together. There could be a number 9 in Yang. Now, I do think like a lot of the raw, so I kind of, there's no point like breaking down the game on this board like we normally do, of course. I'm just kind of having it here for like visual purposes or whatever, right? Well, we talk about, I guess Yang is the kind of flavor of the month, right? So let's just put Yang flavor of the month. Yeah, it's probably it's not, I was gonna say, is that disrespectful? Probably not, but like it's kind of not what we're after. So by the time Yang's on the pitch, of course, Ida has come off for Jota. Kuhn has come off for Yang, and McGregor for McCowan. And McGregor, so this is one of the things I wanted to talk about in the game as well, is McGregor coming off right now. I thought McGregor did his usual job in this game. I think like what we've seen over the last month or so, if we have a look at I'm on this system, so I need to stop and then share again. But if we look at McGregor's performances over the last couple of games, we can maybe drill into him in a bit more detail. But he has been making less of a. He's been put on the ball less dogmatically than previously. Now, there's a few things that can be said for that, right? There's either been a bit of a shift, which I think is maybe everything I'm about to say, but there's maybe been a bit of a shift in the midfield where there's now a higher comfort level between Engels, McGregor, and Hatate as a 3, where the defence are just under less pressure to just definitely give the ball to McGregor. That's the move. Just give the ball to McGregor and let him get 100 touches in this game. He's going to cycle the ball. There's a bit more of less of a reliance for that. And the ball's going quicker into Hatate, the ball's going in quicker to Engels, and subsequently then they are able to progress the ball a bit quicker. McGregor's benefited from this across the season, of course, because he's been able to show up in the box. I'll hit on his stats because I kind of want to go back to the board now and show where he's been showing up in the pitch and stuff like that. But if we look at his performances out of 100 over the last couple of matches, it's not been the form that we've seen earlier this season, where just every game he was just so involved in all the matches. Even if he wasn't getting a goal or anything like that, he was still putting in high positive action counts. That's basically what these ratings out of 100 represent, is the positive stuff, or there's negative stuff that takes points away. So it's overall, it shows how active they've been. It's a very good metric for that overview of activity, let's call it that. And that's been lessening over the last month or so. And that's not a bad thing necessarily. And the only kind of negative I've ever had with McGregor in this position, of course, is just defensive nous, that kind of spidey sense, as we've referred to it as, just that awareness of danger, man to foot cover, space to kill, whatever, he just gets gravitational pull towards the ball. But in this game, I don't think he was bad or anything. I don't think there's anything to be read into the fact that he comes off from McCowan in this game, because, why not? It's the end of this huge marathon, the ultra marathon. We're now at the end of the ultra marathon. Brendan's ultra marathon is now completed. And with McCowan coming on, we've seen a little bit of a change in the 3. Now, this is really fun to talk about, and we'll kind of go into that in a little second, right? But we did this update because Yang, you just wanted to mention Yang and his potential maybe even as a striker. Now, I do think that was all the subs. There was a Scott for Mandarin at this point as well. So we'll maybe just do that in case anyone gets upset at home. But Yang, for me, the number one thing about Yang, right, is you can tell ever since Brendan Rodgers has came to the club, he has been different, right? He has been a lot more you can tell he has clear instructions from the manager in terms of in this match, we want to see you on the front foot. When you get the ball, we want to see you run towards the defense. We want to see you passing and hopefully getting on the end of other passes from the forward players in and around the box. And we're looking for goals and assists. That probably goes without saying. And you're going to get in this game, we're going to get you from the bench. You'll probably get 20 minutes, maybe 30, depending on how the match goes. And, let's see if we can do that half a dozen times. Or some games, if you flip back to, earlier periods when the squad looked differently, sometimes you started and that kind of thing, where we're looking to get you 60 minutes in this game. You're probably going to get 80. You might get 90. This is the script. And it always is looked that he's got very clear directions and instructions, and he's doing very repeatable things that build in to the entire system in here. No one's asking him to do anything crazy, anything totally different. So a big part of our play is repeatable. It is we're going to have 60 plus, 70 plus % possession of the ball. That's going to come from our centre backs. The opposition will have a mid to low block and give us space somewhere in the pitch. We're going to be able to dominate the ball for the most part, and that's going to allow us to set things up. Now, most teams need to rely on set pieces for the most part to set things up. When you're a team that dominate the ball as much as we do, or any team that dominates the ball, that gives you the opportunity to set things up in open play, where you can dictate where players are going to be, where the ball's going to start from, and how you're going to try and get shots away on goal. And everything Yang has always done, he's never really let the side down in terms of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or, just anything against them from what I've kind of said already, to be honest with you. The main complaint has just always been nothing comes of it. That has just been the bottom line with all criticism, is nothing comes from it. And, the thing that he's always showing is he's willing to get on the front foot. He always faces up his man. He always goes direct towards the box. He can dribble. He is fast. He is strong. And people are saying he's beefed up. Maybe he has beefed up a little bit, but Yang's always had a big frame. He's always been the same height and same kind of shoulder span and whatever. He's a lad. you know, and if he's fast and strong and direct and can dribble, like what he doesn't have, he can get, has been the thing I've always maintained with this guy. And it's all he needs to do is get on the end of some cutbacks and some tap-ins. Like, you know, like that has always been missing. Now, the goal that he creates for Daisen Maeda is absolutely beautiful, right? And I'm not going to go and get the highlight up and make sure everyone's in the right place for this one, right? Because we're live, we're recording this, I'd maybe mess about with it a bit more. But in essence, we end up with a situation where Yang's across the halfway line or so, and Daisen is running in between the last two lines of defence. And Yang, back to goal. It's probably like this guy, John, or something. Back to goal, essentially, coming inside on the ball, plays it round the corner, absolutely perfectly into this path here for Daisen. And it's a beautiful pass. Number one, it is beautiful. Number two, his ability to pull it off is what should silence criticism, right? Because that is execution. That is what you want these guys to do, is pull off the thing, you know. Previously, if he was to try this, you would have expected the ball to be too fast, too high. Maybe it doesn't quite end in the land in the right spot or whatever. But execution is perfect. It is exactly what you want here. And he does get great credit for vision and awareness because he knows Daisen's there. He knows he can pull it off with the defenders, and he does it, right? But this is the exact type of ball that Jota plays all game long. This is the exact kind of ball that Kuhn plays all game long, is they like to come inside and loft one on a curve into, you know, if it's from this high up, of course, a runner, but generally it's from around this area here, and you're maybe trying to catch that dive and tap in at the back post. So this is something you can tell. Like, that's a move that all the wingers practice, and then probably when they're at training with cones and mannequins and maybe guys in bibs or whatever, they're practicing that around here, and he's pulling it off from back here, which is why I think he deserves all the plaudits for that assist being obviously fantastic. And with the headers, it's very, like, he does get fantastic credit for positioning, awareness, being in the right place at the right time and all that. It is straight off the paint. It is straight off the training ground. You know, he is just, you can tell he's just been absolutely committed at training to mastering, you know, the move that they're all trying to pull off, where they want to play the ball to. And if you're on the right wing or the left wing, when you should be arriving, what areas to arrive into, what type of ball to expect from this player or that player. And for both of his headers, like the Schlupp cross is just brilliant back post winger play. And for Hitate's ball, again, is the same sort of ball that Yang plays for Daisen. It's coming on the inside, it's lofted, it's curved, and Yang just knows that's the ball they're practicing. That's the ball that they're all playing. Gets on the header himself, and it's just, again, what more do you want from him? Perfect execution. Now, the main thing a lot of people are holding on against Yang, of course, is like he's never going to be best 11. We'll come back and talk about the midfield in a second as I readjust him. I'm kind of itching to do that again still. He's not got a place in the best 11. And maybe that is like a reality. Like, he does have a ceiling, and his limit maybe is probably the season he's had thus far. He has had considerable minutes over the last month and a half, 2 months, and that's been down to injury to Callum McGregor. Pardon me, not Callum McGregor, James Forrest, I beg your pardon. Luis Palma's departure, no replacement for Kyogo. There's just been much more of a reliance on Yang, and that's just been perfect deep end swimming, you know, where the thing with, you know, like we were chatting about this before, and we're on the Yang run, right? So let's just keep it going. We were chatting about this before, where he'd got that run of games around, I want to say, the back end of December, and then people were getting the hump with it a wee bit. Get somebody from the academy in, because this just isn't, it's no going anywhere. I think he's won a penalty and stuff like that, but it's around this period where James Forrest gets injured, and then he's like the only winger. So we're kind of looking maybe from around Hearts, Bruges, Ross County, maybe not quite then. But I think Forrest was injured for these, and that's also why he's came in. But I'm more thinking, yeah, post Zagreb, he started a few games here. 0-0 with Dundee United, and then 2-4-0 wins at home, where he's got, that was a penalty one, wasn't it? Yeah. Now, I do think across this period as well, and I've mentioned this in previous streams, that there is a goal and an assist in here somewhere. That, like, one of them was an OG, and like, so there's no assists credited for it, and maybe the other, or it was his goal, but it became an OG, maybe, or something like that. And the other one was maybe VAR'd off, and maybe it was somewhat dubious or whatever. But there is like another goal and assist that's hidden in here that didn't happen. I can't remember when or where it is. But see, and then again, he's got these wee assists. People don't really give him too much credit for it. But the Bayern Munich one, you know, like, it's going to be hard to forget that, really, you know, in the fullness of time. And then against Dundee United off the back of that should just really compound a real, like, his position in the squad. Like, he's got a spot in the team now. And there was that kind of like, oh, just do away with it. But like, if you gave a guy this amount of minutes, like, don't give up on him. Like, he's just so close to, like, 'cause again, he's not doing anything horribly wrong. And bang, is he coming good? The Aberdeen goal, I don't think gets the credit it deserves. And this should get tons of credit. He won us the match. It was a 2-each draw when he came onto the pitch. And he's made a massive difference in. Yes, it's been individual skill, individual endeavour, and brilliance ultimately that's caused it. But the number one thing to take away from it is he is just executing exactly what he's been told to do. And for an attacking winger, the things we're asking him to do, other people haven't been able to. Luis Palma's prime culprit. James Forrest is obviously everyone's favourite veteran at the moment. But again, on this channel, we've had to do videos like saying to everyone, get off James Forrest's back. You know, he deserves a new contract, you know, or blah, 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 whatever. And, you know, wide players come under so much scrutiny at Celtic. The standard is so high for wide players, especially if you're going to get significant minutes. And I think Yang is, like, he's in the picture. And if that's the competitive level we've got in the wings, like, brilliant. Absolute apex. I kind of want to move past Yang. Yang up front would be worth trying. Now, so a lot of the raw qualities, this is, the last thing to probably touch on with Yang, right? But the raw qualities that we've seen them demonstrate in all the matches he's had, no matter what the performance has been, form, good or bad, goals or no goals or whatever, is he's got a high work rate. He is strong. He does not give up. He puts everything out there. He loves playing for the team. And very similar raw basic makeup to Daisen Maeda. And, you know, does he just build wise, if he was one day put in this position here, scored 2 headers tonight, is he like some sort of final form? You know, is that kind of, is that how this story shakes out? It's a great point the chat are bringing up, by the way. It's not really anything I'd thought about, but when you just kind of keep it at the front of my mind there, and yeah, that could be something, by the way, guys. That could be something. Now, with McGregor going off, we get this thing happen, right? And I had this, I don't know if I would even say it was a row, right? But there's a Twitter account I really like. The guy's a Celtic fan. You probably know him. Can I go and find it? You guys let me know, right? I thought this guy kind of got a bit nippy with me. And I was like, oh, chill out, mate. Just try to talk Celtic, you know. But Hamill, right? So this guy used to be on a big YouTube channel. He works for The Athletic now. He's like a journal or whatever, right? But the midfield changed. We've seen something that we've seen on the channel. We'll talk about this in a second, right? But this for me is like classic just when McGregor's not in the midfield. And yeah, so this guy got a wee bit nippy, it felt like, with us, just like in terms of, we're just saying like it's not that deep, where like the shape didn't really change too much for Celtic. McKeown, Yang, Maeda, all these things were all quite consistent throughout the game. But what we see when we lose, and feel free to pause this or whatever, right, if you want to read it. But yeah, I think that's all. But what we always see when McGregor isn't playing is 2 things, right? We see someone different in this centre position here. Now, we spoke earlier about how over the last like month or so, because of maybe the quality and the comfort levels we're getting from Hatate and Engels when they're on one side of the midfield each, the defence are getting into them a bit quicker. They're demanding the ball more. They're dominating the play. You know, they're attacking. They're controlling what we're doing and what we're up to a bit more often. So McGregor's just involved less in that initial web-making build-up play and move the ball from side to side, because the defence can do that. And then if they want to hit some of those guys, they're doing it more often, which is quality. Normally, we only seen that before when McGregor wasn't in the team, because it did feel for a time that there was like a real obligation from so many players to give the ball to McGregor in that position. And I think Engels did okay in this role. I don't really remember him standing out in particular as doing anything above the call of duty, as it were. Like he held positions well and passed very effectively, definitely. But when there's less pressure going into that centre defensive midfield spot, and we do play the ball to Hatate and Engels, or in this case McKeown, a lot quicker, we tend to get, it's a different style of play. We actually get some different routes to goal open up, because it's not just about the reliance or the mandatory element of putting McGregor on the ball, but it's also then just the patterns that can build from that. So when McGregor's controlling a lot of this, McGregor's the captain, he's the controller, he's the orchestrator, he's picking the plays to run, who runs where, what wing are we hitting, and how we're looking to finish it at the end. He's deciding all that, right? Because that's all the stuff that they practice and they lay out. But when he's not on the pitch, you ask the question, who does that? Now, the armband goes to Carter Vickers, which fine. But Carter Vickers isn't controlling the play. Carter Vickers isn't running the show. He's not deciding how they're going to go and attack, who's going to pass to who, and all the rest of it. And we've seen a great build-up of synergy between Hatate and McKeown in some of these games recently when Brendan has played the 3 wee guy midfield, as we call it here on the channel. And with McGregor also now out the equation, it just felt that finally we got a bit of midfield link-up play. Again, something we normally don't really get much of. The midfielders all quite independent, or all work generally quite independently from one another with their wingers, with the defence, and with the forwards. But when McGregor went off, we've seen what a midfield like this kind of should feel like, a little bit more in attack. Where, and don't get me wrong, Engels and the Hatate link up well enough, but it just feels more stated. It feels more obvious when it's McKeown, because McKeown just kind of arrives a bit nippier and he's just a bit more in your face, whereas Engels is just kind of like Rolls Roycing himself all over the pitch, really, to be honest with you. And we've seen some great play come from that, and I do think that was, it's 100%, like, who's running the play is my question here, and for me it's Hatate. And what I think we see a lot more of in this case here, where it's kind of just and I called it in that thread, the substitute teacher vibe, where, or it's maybe like the assistant manager for the adults, when the boss isn't in and someone else is in charge, you still get the work done, but you have a bit more fun. You maybe have a longer lunch break. You maybe get an extra coffee break or whatever you're up to in your workplace, And that's Hatate, that's like the manager's on the bench, now McGregor, like the boss is away, and, we're going to get the job done, but let's have a bit of fun. Let's do it this way, and we've just seen some different passages of play open up. Jota did, I think he felt left out, hung out, left to dry. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I've butchered that sentence. But there was a few chances where, and again, this is what I mean, it really exemplified it. Normally when we are bursting through in these positions here with Hatate, Jota's free on the wide overlap on wide. Hatate played the ball inside a few times, either directly to McKeown or to Dyson, or maybe even trying to find Yang as well, like he did also for the assist, which was quality. And he didn't want to do that as much anymore. He's like, no, I'm playing with these guys and I'm coming inside. And again, that was just, it gave a bit of variety as well, didn't it? Which caused some of the openings that we got for the goals and the passages of play in question. So I just felt that it was a bit of, like, we see, like, and I've always been saying, like, this should be McGregor and Hatate. Should this be Engels? Is maybe now a question that maybe now we get faced with after this match, because Engels did go into that role here, and anything McKeown can do, McGregor can do, and I won't have it said any different, to be honest with you. And for how nippy that looks and the qualities that McGregor has, like, this is a better place to have him, really, isn't it? Coming inside on that left foot, Hatate coming inside on his right foot. Brendan, I know you subscribe to the channel, mate. Get into the live chat, drop a fist bump, let me know you're here, buddy. I'm not too convinced on Engels being here. I know Double Denim and a few faithfuls on the Axum channel certainly think, and I think there's a lot of people that think Engels has a future here. I don't see it. I don't think he's, same as Bernardo, like, they're not the answer to the problem we have there. And again, I don't want that to get confused. But he looked efficient in this, and in this match, he pulled off the job, pulled off the role effectively. Playing deeper, so that's good to know he can do that. I think of the squad now, I would prefer Bernardo being this guy. He just feels the most kind of hatchet capable, where, like, Gogic for them, like, Gogic has got, whenever you see Gogic playing against Celtic, you know what his game is going to be like. And maybe not domestically, it's not something we need, but there's some moments in Europe where you need a guy that just has that sniff of knowing, I'm putting a slide tackle in there now, I'm just killing this momentum. We'll take a bit of the sting out of the match, or, even just mopping up play in a more honest fashion, let's say. But yeah, it's a bit of banter coming in the chat, so I might calm myself down for a minute, take a pause for the cause, and see if there's anything else in the match that I wanted to kind of bring up and hit home with yous. What's up with Kuhn? I'm not sure. I would start Yang for the cup against Hibs. Interesting chat. French football is shite. Oh, I think there's a wee bit of Ren chat as well. Ren, now here we go. Chilpil was educating us. Ren were 3 up at 70 minutes and then went 4 up in the 87th. Kyogo student. I thought he was out with a shoulder injury. Matt O'Reilly not even in the Brighton squad today. Now, when you're the Matt O'Reilly one is different, a wee bit different for me than the Kyogo one, right? I think Kyogo should think that way. Don't get me wrong, Chilpil, but like O'Reilly for me, like, I think he did feel that was going to be a good move and it didn't work out. Like, whereas Kyogo, I think, is just taking the first bus that would come for him, kind of thing. It's obviously the first deal we've managed to work out and agree with a club as well. Obviously, I'm sure there was more than one team in for him. Don't get me wrong. But I think with O'Reilly, like Brighton was like, okay, that's a move I would do. Don't think he would have just went to any club. It felt like Kyogo was just kind of, that's the way it feels to me anyway. And that reminds me a lot of Gary Hooper, where like I really thought Hooper, like, mate, you've got don't go back to England. You've seen it with Kelvin Wilson as well. Just don't go back to England. Just stay here. You're doing great. We're doing great together. Like it might not last forever, but it's not finished yet. Like that's the attitude. And with O'Reilly, I'm not like, I think he'll break through. We've seen what Ryan Christie's doing in the Premier League. Come on, like O'Reilly's going to be fine. I don't think he's totally fit. I think he's had a few niggles, to be honest, as well. I know he's came back from a big injury we all know about, but I think he's had a few niggles on top. And I thought Kyogo had a shoulder injury, so I'm surprised he's on the bench, frankly. But I overall agree with the sentiment, that some players really, Greg Taylor knows his level, and if he goes to Zagreb and gets a bag of money, like fair play. You know what you're getting when you do that, and he's probably going to meet his expectations. He's probably going to get some medals, and he'll earn the money that's in his contract, So yeah, there's that. Is there anything else in the match I kind of wanted to pick up on? We get Johnny Kenny getting some minutes at the very end. We've kind of touched on Johnny Kenny already. I don't think there's much need to go over it much more. Scales, I think, like, did he do anything memorable? It was maybe one kind of Bambi moment, I think. And I think when that defence were used to the pace of Trusty, they just thought we can take Scales for pace, for sure. And he was put under the caution a little bit. But there was a few times as well where he was looking for the ball in this area here, and it took a while for Schmeichel to trust him to come into this area. But yeah, I thought Scales was fine. And, he's going to be trusted when he's not if he's under any concussion protocol. I don't know. Maybe Scales plays the weekend, more back in the summer. And like the whole Jota move, right? I'm totally up for doing Jota transfers, right? Because Ajax have done that fantastically. Sold guys for buckets of money and got them back for like next to nothing. And I'm not above that. If the guys want to come back, Jota's a great example of how it can work out and why. Even Fraser Foster, who I know I said his name, and I know he's not every Celtic fan's favourite, and really like, I'm raging at Fraser Foster on like a daily basis. And like, why have you done that to his fucking like 3 times? You know what I mean? It feels like so. Like, anyway, that's for another one. But there's some players where like, nah, it's all right. But like Christopher Ajer, I would take back. I don't know how you feel about Ajer. O'Reilly, I would as well. But I don't think O'Reilly's going to be in a hurry because I think like he has a career at the top. And Kyogo, I probably wouldn't take Kyogo back, Jota style. Trying to think if there's anyone else. Edward, a lot of people mention. I don't think I'd have Edward back either, by the way, guys. I think Edward is like, I don't know. I'm sure he'd be great. Again, like if he would keep Adam Ida out of the team. Edward, let's just call a spade. Yeah, some people don't like Ajer. I think Ajer, yeah, he didn't finish well, did he? But I fucking loved Christopher Ajer. Like I really did. But yeah, beyond that, I'm not too up for going back with many. Starfelt, yeah, I wouldn't disagree with Starfelt or Jens. I would if Vickers left or something awful happened to him or whatever, because you kind of want them on the right, that was kind of part of the problem for that kind of dynamic that we're trying to build. Yeah, I'm kind of there on Edward. Olivier Ncham is the best midfielder in Turkey right now. In case you missed it. Also as well, by the way, guys, I did a post on Twitter last week talking about lagers, and he's went and done it again. He's went and smashed out 100 out of 100 rating this game week. He won a penalty. He made like 10 duels, didn't lose any of them. 2 tackles, 15 clearances, effective clearances no less, which means they retained possession from them, 73 passes. The score was incredible. I'm not putting it on the screen, so it's not the Lager BLK show, but we're going to make money on lagers. Like, we are going to do it. Yeah, like Scales has got a good range of passing as well. I think Trusty's passing is much more like basic. It does, like, it's quite quick. Trusty's quite good and thinks quite fast. Scales is maybe like got that perception and maybe he's kind of carries it off in practice, but of like being halfway hesitant at times. We're just maybe caught in 2 minds to do this or to do that. Whereas Trusty feels a bit more clinical. That recovery pace just must give a lot more comfort to the rest of the team around him. Yeah, I don't think really Jota really got into the game too much. Yang obviously stole the headlines and buzzing for him. I don't think there's much more to be said about Yang. I'm kind of happy to chat with the chat for another like kind of 10-15 minutes, and then that'll probably be the end of it, unless something else comes to mind. So before you give up on the topical part of the video, maybe give me 5 minutes to just ring my little bell around and see if that sounds bad. Just try to get the bells going or the lights. Let me try and get some light bulbs on. That's probably the better way of putting it. Don't think Kyogo would be a good idea. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Yeah, Big Dom, we heard it from the horse's mouth. We had Brendan on the show earlier telling us exactly in no uncertain terms the reasons for Yang's form. And see if it is as simple as that. See if we've had a player like that could do the missing piece of the Yang puzzle. If the missing piece of the puzzle is now found, Colin, talk to me. Jordan Larson is not in the squad for Copenhagen today, sadly. That kind of broke my heart. He's back, but he's scored in the last 2 games, got a goal and an assist or something like that. I would love Jordan Larson at the club. I don't think Jordan Larson would come not knowing he's going to play all the time, because the main problem with his career is he was doing brilliant in Russia. I was watching him every week, and that might sound mad, right? But to Celtic fans, maybe not, because seriously, if you're ever bored or you're stuck for something to do on YouTube, look at Jordan Larson's Spartak Moscow highlights. I watched like every one of those matches, because the Russian league and the Scottish Football League can take a leaf out of this book, right? But the Russian league, before all the stuff happened, you could watch every game in Russia on their YouTube channel if you like paid as a membership, like £6 a month or something. Every match, English commentary, and it was just on your phone, So literally, I've watched every one of them. And see, when Jordan Larson plays good football, it's almost like the real deal, it hits good, it's well worth it. And if you're ever stuck for something to do, he was brilliant. I think they won the cup. I think he's got a medal from the cup. They did really well. They didn't have a great team. They had a good team, and he played with a guy called Sobolev, who is like so Sutton like, in so many ways. He's not a patch on Chris Sutton, of course. They call him the Dolphin. He kind of looks like that. He actually went viral for fighting with Zenit. I don't know if you ever seen that video where Spartak Moscow and Zenit players are fighting about 6 months ago, maybe a year, but he's in that video. Played with him, very Sutton-esque. It was very, very good. I'm not really up for that, McLaughlin P. Now, we've got a lot, the Tisdale, and who's the other English guy we've got kind of as a subcontractor? What's his name? The old guy. They will probably end up getting as a Stansfield, or it just feels like another junior Stanislas when I see that name, to be honest with you. And yeah, we could be in for a guy like that. They could make the grade. But I think we need to be spending real money. The main position I'm looking forward to, in vein of, like, because normally when we see this midfield so far this season, it's, I think, of Motherwell and one or two other games. But when we've seen Bernardo, Engels, and Hatate as a midfield three, I think McCowan's maybe featured in a McGregorless midfield from the start before as well. We do just get a different dynamic. We do feel a bit more of a presence from the attacking midfielders. And, depending if it's been Bernardo, we feel much more of a defensive cover, because Big Bernardo off the ball feels and looks like a centre back. He covers the right space. He sniffs out the danger. He does that kind of donkey work, as it were. Not a great expression for it, again, I'm sorry. But, just hard yards, just getting battered, just being on the wrong end of 50-50s and breaking stuff up. And if you are on the ball, being nippy and being good in tight spaces and all that kind of stuff. So that's why that expression came to mind. Could be another hooper. Yeah, I'm always up for guys like that, I suppose. But is Ida not could be another hooper? David Pleat. That's it. Thank you very much, Simon Fedeni. Love the name, mate. Thanks for the shout and helping us out here. And yeah, that's the level. So next transfer window, will we jump onto the squad? We're kind of, I guess we'll do that. We'll jump onto the squad. So normally, I've spoke about it before with Yang and Bernabe and Home and I guess Lagerbielke now comes into the equation, where like a club like us does want to be in the space where the players are not good enough for us. We are selling for money, profit ideally, and the best way to do that is in the absence of having a youth academy where you sell players because we just seem to give them away. You need to buy guys for cheap that you can then kind of turn around, and we've done very well with the Bernabe one. And I think we're going to do quite well out at Lagerbielke, and there may be one or two more that kind of spiral off the back of that, which could be cool as well as like the headline sales that we make, of course. But we don't want to need, I think the Celtic board, especially now in the current format of the Champions League and everything that we've got going on, like if we can mini Man City this, and what I mean by this is, imagine we sold Yang for 7 million. That's probably not out of the question in the right environment, to be quite honest with you, with his age and everything that we've spoke about is good for him, and yada yada, whatever. Then that maybe takes the pressure off of, we've had a big approach for Alistair Johnson or Dyson Maeda or whatever. But do you know what? Well, we sold Bernardo for 6 million and we sold Yang for 7 and we got 4 million for Kenny. Oh, well, and we're in the Champions League. Well, do you know what? Our asking price hasn't been met. We're hanging for 50 or whatever. Crazy amount. And I think Celtic want to get to the stage where they can do that. This summer, but is not the time for building that, let's say, stock. You know, those windows, we've kind of referred to that term before, where it's like buying stock in, where if one of them works, like Nicholas Kuhn, then you keep him. He's in the team. He's fucking brilliant. Everyone loves him, and all the rest of it. And then all the other players, well, if they go out on loan and they do no half bad, maybe we can turn them around again. Unlike Haksabanovic, unlike Vasilius Barkas, who's became, again, probably the best goalkeeper in Holland as well, which is just a weird situation. Last night felt a bit like when Kalmack came in for Bruni. You know, like, I kind of wanted to say that, like, about this is it's not a problem with McGregor, because I did feel from him, yeah, I did get that feeling in his face where he was like, you know, he wasn't surprised, but he was like, I'm getting subbed off. Like, okay, 66th minute, 2 each, you know, I mean, we're running winning. You know, it's a big move, you know, in that way. And yeah, just shook things up a little bit. And I think, like, again, the fixtures is a huge contextual part of this entire match, you know, in the last 3 or 4 matches as well. So I kind of get where you're coming from, Colin, and I'm definitely vibing on the same kind of thing you've got there. I don't know if we're quite there. It's maybe a little foreshadowing. You could be, yeah, I'm with you on this. Someone with a bit of height would be nice. Yeah, and do you know, I was going to mention that with the St Mirren guy. Did I save that? The guy who scored the jammy equaliser, the 2 each goal. He is somebody, like, see if we do have, like, I don't know what his asking price is. Can we go in? Are we on the internet? Let's go and get the internet on. Let's go and get the internet on. Right, so this is Lagerbielke. Okay, I was looking at his score just to tell you his stats. I wasn't going to show you him, but there we go. But let's go to our old pals, Transfer Marks. And if you weren't here, we did a lovely January show where we were going through the transfer market. And Transfer Marked joined the channel. You know, they were in the live chat giving it Yaldi, which was good crack. Let's just see what he's worth. His name is Killian Phillips. And now, the jammy goal is the jammy goal, right? Don't think he did particularly well for that or whatever. But besides that, he stood out in this game. And I thought he's got all the raw materials. I don't even know how old he is or whatever. He's half American, which is interesting. He's 22. He's a tall lad. Got some caps for, is that Ireland youth? Half American as well, of course. On loan. Oh, interesting. On loan from Crystal Palace. So he's actually a Palace player. And see if his position is like centre midfield. Like, he's the sort of prospect that this is like Owen Beck, like last year or something like that, but it's like a left back and we needed a left back. You know, do we need a midfielder? I don't know if this is a guy that we necessarily spend real money on or whatever, but like, if you could get this guy for like cheap, you know what I mean? Buy him and just loan him back out again, or buy him and play him. I wouldn't be against that in terms of just a general thing. Number 88 as well, Irish guy, you know, like, I wouldn't rule it out. But we generally should be buying somebody like him that's probably more closer to the career path of an Engels or a Kuhn, you know, where rather than this guy, like, he's cutting his teeth, getting his experience, living this life, a guy that's been doing it on the continent, maybe even they've played European experience already. Ideally, we want a guy that's been winning leagues and titles somewhere. And there is a few, like, my top pick for this, and I'll be making a video with a few more picks, right? But I'll tell you, my top pick for now is Ivan Illich, right? I'm a huge fan of this guy. He has exactly everything. Left-footed Engels. Let's just call him that. Maybe not quite as gallopy. Like, you know how Engels can just kind of get across box to box? Illich is maybe not quite got that gear. Oh, crazy mad pop-up. That's not good. We've been hacked. We've been hacked. I think that was the 76ers or whatever they're called. We're on somebody's page there. Who was it? Ivan Illich. Last thing, I'll kind of leave these with that since she's brought it up, and maybe Brendan's watching today. But this guy is left-footed Engels, but maybe not quite as... he's got the same birthday as me. So he's born on St Patrick's Day. This guy is a Tim in the making. Trust me. Good amount of caps for Serbia as well. Former CFG, Man City kind of guy as well. So he's been in that life. And he's valued at a few bob. He's going to cost about this probably, right? But he just had a big money move to Russia breakdown. He's not quite made it at the top level. He's never quite made it to a Champions League club or whatever. He's done all right in Serie A, just been the victim of bad manager changes, an injury or two or whatever. But he has everything that we want on the left side of an Engels midfield. Like if Engels is on the right, have him on the left, or if you want to cross them over so they're coming inside on their feet. He can play defensive midfield as well. I don't know if I would rely on him to be the answer to the problem we have in defensive midfield out and out, any more so than I would Engels. Maybe even as a pair with then a McGregor or a Tati or something on top, that could be nice. But you know, he is on the way out. Torino are not going to be playing him either, so maybe this price goes down a little bit. And this is a guy that age-wise, again, 23, this is a perfect sort of guy we should go for. And we should only be spent, this is kind of my main point I was making about all this, we should only be buying like 2 players in this window, or 3. We need another left back, so we need to sign a left back, maybe that's Schlupper or whatever, but we need to get a midfielder that's going to cost a whack, and we need to get a forward that's going to cost a whack. And when we add this into the squad depth that we've got here, the squad would be absolutely jamming, you know. Another midfielder in here that is somebody like an Illich, someone like another Engels type coming in here. Would you want another centre back into the mix? I don't think it's really required if Scales is happy to live this life, of course. We've got Yang, we've got Schlupp in there, as well as Yang, of course. We've not really worked out what we think. I think I'm going to put Ida into the backup team now, I think. I think from what we've seen and what we've heard, well, that feels the way the depth is probably going now. And when Jota's fully fit and Kuhn is on it, they're not going to be missing out minutes, are they? So I think that's the way it goes. So the next forward we bring in is probably going to be depth for Dyson, like actual depth, but probably has a bit of versatility to give Kuhn cover and to challenge Yang, maybe, on the left here. And Forrest is Forrest, you know, so that's probably the way it goes. We probably see Kenny go out on loan. And really, like, what else you need to do? Probably not anything. So you spend your money on a midfielder, you spend your money on the next forward to come in, and we're cooking, man. Do we desperately need another centre back, Michelle? With Dane Murray, I'm not factoring Welsh into this. I suppose we could go and get another guy. We could go and, like, who knows what happens with Norocki, right? But I'm confident we're going to get enough money for Lagerbielke where we can just go and buy another defender again and just replace him and go, hey, let's go and try and get another guy in who could just, like, imagine we could get a guy that could be our best defender for like 3-4 million quid. I don't mind taking that sort of shot now, as long as they're actually halfway good, you know, and they're usable, because we're not going to be buying anyone to oust Trusty or Vickers. So what sort of player are we buying? You know, are they ousting Scales in? And then what does that do for him? We need a guy that could realistically just be in amongst it and become the best player. So you're after a real prospect, a guy that's probably a lot younger, and a guy that's probably oh, no, I'll save it for another day. I've done another great shout for defensive midfielder just came to my mind. I'll write that down so I won't forget it. I think we've maybe mentioned him before, but anyhow, I like that Killian Phillips. He's definitely my domestic list now. He's definitely made that from today. No two ways about it. But yeah, Lennon Miller is the primary shout that comes into this position, and I totally get it. But from all accounts, he's made his mind up. He's going to Italy. He's going to the continent or something like that. And I don't blame him, quite frankly, because although in this system, in this Celtic midfield, he'll challenge for minutes, he'll be a great player for us, we'll get to play Champions League, he'll win some medals and all the rest of it. That's not the next chapter in his career, is that for Celtic. The next chapter in his career is playing 90 minutes for a team just like Motherwell, but at a higher level. That's the next step for him, you know. And that's going to be Udinese or Verona or something like that, and good luck to him. But we're not going to get him. We're not going to go after him. It would cost proper money. And we would probably need somebody to leave. Now, if somebody were to leave, it'd be the first phone call you make, you know. Thank you very much. If you are enjoying the show, guys, please do hit the like button, of course. If you're watching this after we've been live, please do like and subscribe, of course, for more content like this. This is our second Sunday that we've come on live to do some breakdown stuff, and we might make this a regular occurrence because there's enough views trap up to it. We always have to have something to get stuck into on a Sunday, whether we've had the match day on the Sunday or the Saturday. So it's kind of good from both the angles. Sam Dalby, see if Sam Dalby is happy to. I don't think so. I think he's too close to Ida, to be quite honest. I think that's part of the thing with that. And Wrexham are nae skint, you know. So gonna have to do something with Telio to recoup some money. Yeah, I don't think that'll be hard. Like, I think with Telio, what you do is you bring him back. Now he's got some more highlight reels from Australia. You send them on loan to Portugal, you send them on loan to Belgium, Switzerland, anywhere. And then you're going to make money on him. We got him for bugger all. I don't think we spent any credible transfer fee on him, so that's going to be not a hard one to make money on. Yeah, and he's fit and he's rapid. Like, I can't say it enough. Like, the ball, like the goals he scored, he's been like, he's not even in the beginning of the highlight, and he's just motoring in like at rapid pace and just crashing a tap in and out of nowhere, completely unmarked, of course, because he's just borderline teleporting. He's rapid. Like, he is rapid. The problem is we don't get space like that for a wee guy. I did his player induction press conference. The littlest football player I've ever met. I don't know if littlest is the right word. Sorry, guys. You can tell I'm not a journalist. Maybe that's why they don't like me. Because I say littlest. Maybe that is. No, but I mean, like, like, against Bayern Munich, against Bruges, against Dinamo Zagreb, like, Sam Dalby if Maeda isn't available, he's not carrying that water. And I think that's the number one thing Brendan wants depth for, is to carry that. Because imagine right now with the squad, Dyson is out. We just cannot do that mega press job. So we had Kyogo and Dyson. Perfect cover. Never really needed to ever think about it in that sense. A few times Dyson did start up front because we wanted to play that game and Kyogo wasn't at it, or available, of course. And now if we don't have Dyson, like, we just do not have the option. Unless, are we playing Yang up there? Are we? Is that the move? So, like, I think that has to be cover. It has to be another mega presser. Has to be a guy that's maybe not got goal scoring statistics, by the way. Might be a guy we sign that hasn't got a tail of the tape where it's like, oh, this guy's been super prolific, or it might be a guy that's like how we found Yang and O, where they've had half a season, they've showed high promise, lots of raw metrics, and maybe the deal can be done in the right way to make it work. But I think ultimately they will look like Dyson and Kyogo in terms of like what they do off the ball, the main bare minimum qualities you'll definitely get from them before we try and work them into the team and integrate them football-wise. So that's why I just don't think Sam Dalby. And I think, like, yeah, sorry, I've maybe kind of... Sorry if I just get a bit animated doing this, but yeah. Yeah. Love the questions, love the chat. But yeah, I think there's not much else to go through, guys, over what we've seen. Great result. One of Brendan's favourites, and I think we've touched on the many reasons why it's a great one for the manager to see unfold. The most, yeah. Kenny Todd nailed it in the chat. Thanks very much, Stephen Kennedy. It's just, I can't say it enough without sounding like a broken record. I won't say it too much more, but it was mainly in contrast to Palma, who actually scored a goal. And by the way, the amount of space they give you in Greece is criminal. But that was the problem I always had with him, is like, he didn't want to take people on. He wasn't really that brave on the ball. He didn't really look like he was going to put everything out there for us, And it's just a thing. Like, I don't know. That's why statistics are okay, but they're not everything, because you need to, like, really with players, especially attacking players, like, because what a lot of people don't realize as well, and I don't know if this is like, I don't want to call it anything it isn't, right? But see, like, having coaching badges and working coaching and whatever, like, I know for a fact the hardest thing to coach, and it's a bit of a cliche, it's a bit of a trope, right? But the hardest thing to coach is attacking play, is route to goal, is attacking sequences that work, that are unique and are like not repetitive or dull or whatever in so many ways. And so many modern managers really, like, I'm sure they do practice things and repetitive actions and all the rest of it, but so much modern football is about, and you'll hear Brendan, you'll hear Pep, you'll hear a lot of the possession-based coaches talking about this, where you're looking to set the game up, you're looking to set the team up, and then once you get to the final third, the attacking players come to life, that kind of chat. And that is quite frankly saying the players need to figure it out, because attacking is the hardest thing in football. And when you've got attacking players that are, and it's why with like the predator strikers, the fox in the boxes, like, it's why you let them away with missing chances if they're getting into the right place, because that's just, again, like Yang, it's just what they're missing is just a bit of luck, a bit of fortune. Some players never get that luck or fortune. Maybe their confidence never then grows. Maybe then they lose the club they're at. They go back down the food chain. They go back down the pyramid. And then that's a test of character as much as talent. And we see that all the time in football, you know. So there is always that question. You know, I'm not saying anything that I've seen about Yang has been definite, but there's always been something to not write him off with. And it's like, this guy actually has, like, if we were scouting this guy, I'd happily still sign him for what we got him for, you know. And wait, oh, that's the wrong screen. But if we go and have a look at it again, I know people are leveling, like, the stat was that Jota had already matched his minutes or his goal contributions or whatever. And fair enough, right? Over Yang's career, it's not been that prolific. Under Brendan Rodgers has been a little bit different. But especially since he's been in the deep end, like, there's been clear progression. There's been clear contribution. And really, who's he let down? You know? So great fortitude from the manager, I would say, to stick with him in adversity as well. And Yang was Young Player of the Year 2022. Is that when we signed him? Or is that... Well, we've still got transfer marked open, so let's have a look at it. Don't know if I should have hyphenated any of that. Maybe it's easier just to go and find... Obama Yang. Oh, there is there. Good. Let's see his honours. Does it tell you here? Best Young Player 2022 Asia. Yeah, it must have been a 22-23 season. Yeah, it must have been in the K League. Won the under 23 championships with him. Like, he's got something about him. Yeah, like, you know, so that's the thing. Like, and because it's funny, right? Because see, when I'm doing videos or making content, like, I always kind of have to, and it's part of the thing I've always enjoyed with doing it, which I've been doing it for actually a fair couple of years, as I was thinking about this the other day. But it's like, when I see something, it's like, what am I seeing? And why do I feel the way I'm feeling? And you have to kind of really pick it apart. And I think sometimes when people are writing people off, sometimes it's worth it, you know, or it's the right thing to do. Like, Lagerbielke, I thought looked terrible. Cannot believe how good he's doing in Holland, by the way. Rocco Vata, I felt the same about. Can't believe how well he's doing in the championship. So no one gets everything right, you know, but yeah, I'm glad you think so, mate. I'm glad you enjoy the content, and I'm glad someone's got my back on that one. If O'Reilly was 8 million, then you're not taking him back, are you? Agreed about the stats thing. Yeah, like, stats are cool. They're important. They definitely help tell you stuff, but they're not, like, you know, like, yeah, you kind of need to see a guy and think, like, what's going on? Like, what do we actually expect here? He's a defender. He should be clearing the ball. He should be winning tackles. Is he doing that? Aye, he is. Right, well, what's the problem with Scales? Oh, he misses passes. How many? 6. All right, well, Vickers missed 7. You know, there's just little things like that sometimes. But yeah, I've had a great time on stream today, guys. Thanks to everyone that has tuned in live and loud. And I will catch you this week coming. We'll also get Hibs. We've got the Derby not too far afterwards. It's St Patrick's weekend, which is also my birthday as well. We always have good fun on the channel in lieu of that. And I've kind of alluded to it in the stream today, where we're talking about, I'm going to have some kind of transfer, some kind of topic-based videos coming out over the next couple of weeks. And we will probably look to pencil the Sunday stream into the calendar now quite firmly. We've did 2 of these in a row. They seem to have went quite well. And for any of you that are watching this after we've been live, again, feel free to get in the comments, let me know thoughts and feelings. And yeah, thanks everyone that tuned in. Hope you have hit the like button. Hope you had a good time. Hail, hail, and won the hoops.